guys, it's Amanda from the Fiction Variants today. I'm bringing you a review, and my review is on Second Star, and this is by Alyssa Sheinmel, and this is being released on May 13th, 2014, and it is being published by Macmillan. Now, this cover was beautiful. It was just very like Hawaiian, California tropic. I really liked it. Anybody who loves the ocean, I think, will love this cover, and I thought it was just very pretty, very calming, and I enjoyed it. The things that I liked about this book was it was a different spin on the story that they did. I didn't expect it to end up where it did, and that was a bit refreshing. The things that I didn't like this book were that it fell kind of flat for me in a lot of areas, and although it came off like it had a bit of depth, it really just did not come through for me. So Second Star is about a girl named Wendy, and Wendy has two brothers. They're twins, and they love the surf. They wake up every morning before the crack of dawn to get to the biggest waves, the biggest surfs down the shore, and that's where they spend their whole day at, is just the beach, surfing. They really don't care too much about school. They're just, surf heads. They come home with sand all over them, and that's just what they do. They're typical surf boys. And one day they don't come home. And Wendy and her parents are just wondering, where are they at? Did they go find, another wave? And it was just a little bit further away. And what the cops end up finding is there are two broken boards down by one cove. And so they just assume, because they're surfers, there was a storm during that time, that they must have caught a bad wave. It probably crushed them against some rocks, and that they had passed on because they found their broken boards. So Wendy's parents have a hard time accepting this, but over time, they accept that, their sons died in a surfing accident, and they don't want to talk about surfing. They don't want to talk about the beach. They don't really even want to talk about the boys. They have closed up the room the way that it was when they left. Her parents stay in bed all day now. They're always wearing like gray clothing. They're just very depressed. And the one person who cannot let it go is Wendy. For some reason, Wendy does not believe that her brothers died. Wendy believes that something else happened. She believes that her brothers were just too good as surfers to have had something like this happen, and she is set and determined to go out and try to find where her brothers are at, because she is unwilling to accept that they have died. And that's where the book takes off. It's Wendy's kind of like adventure to try to find out what really happened to her brothers, because she cannot accept this death. She just feels like there's something more to it. And during this time, Wendy goes through this whole thing with her best friend who, her and her best friend were always very close, and her best friend got a boyfriend, and what happens with that. You start to drift apart a little bit, and her best friend is always telling her, after high school graduation, you just got to get over it. Your brothers died, you have to move on. She is not necessarily the comforting best friend you would think that she should be in that type of situation. But sometimes I think when tragedy happens, people will comfort you for so long, and then they want you to move on so they can just move on and stop talking about it. So they don't want you to keep dwelling on it, because that means that they have to keep dwelling on it. And that's what happens with her best friend. Her best friend kind of sort of pulls away a little bit. It's just like, get over it. They died. You have to move on. And Wendy just can't. So it causes a little bit of a rift between them there, and the fact that her best friend has a boyfriend, it was just inevitable that they were going to kind of fall a bit apart. So Wendy, embarks on this adventure to find out what happened to her brothers, and she finds out so much more than she thought she was going to. She realizes that she did not know her brothers as well as she thought she knew her brothers, that they were more than she thought they were. They were involved in a lot more than she thought that they were. She just couldn't believe the things that she found out about them through perfect strangers. And it really helps her on her search to find her brothers, but it didn't help her with the pain that was in her heart. The things she finds out about her brothers actually just kept adding to the pain, because she had this perfect image of her brothers in her head, since she was little, because she looked up to them. And then, of course, once they were pronounced dead, she had this perfect image of these two perfect boys who just loved to surf. They were beautiful, and they were just really good older brothers. And then she finds out all these kind of dark secrets about them through these perfect strangers. And she just realizes that she didn't know them, that things were not as what they seemed, and she just can't believe that they would have been involved in anything other than wholesomeness. So again, so now she can't deal with the fact that they maybe had a dark history, and she can't deal with the fact that they have been pronounced dead. So that just drives Wendy even more to find out what happened to them. And along with that, Wendy starts to feel like, maybe she's not who she thought she was. She can't accept her brother's death. She can't accept the fact that, maybe they had a dark side, and she becomes somebody she didn't know that she was. She's very wholesome. She's very, get straight A's, gonna go to Stanford, and all of a sudden she's just like, her whole world crashes down around her with her brothers supposedly dying, and then finding out these dark secrets that they have, that she just becomes this whole other person. She starts engaging in activities that usually the old Wendy would not have done. She starts talking about things that the old Wendy would not have talked about. She starts trying to surf, and the old Wendy would have never surfed. She becomes a different person while trying to find her brothers. And the strangers who end up telling her all this information about her brothers are the ones who then try to help her find them. And it's just chaos just ensues. There's a big event that happens to Wendy that you're kind of like, oh man, I can see where this is going. This is so bad, Wendy. This is so bad. And it happens, and you're like, oh, you like cover your face, and you're like, oh my god, I cannot believe this is happening right now. And then you get a little hinge of confusion, and then the whole story just twists around, and you're just like, whoa, I did not expect that to happen. Like, I thought this was a simple, straightforward, contemporary story, and then it was going to wrap up, be done. We're going to have our conclusion. Did they die? Did they not die? What happened to them if they did die? What happened to them if they did not die? Will they come home? Will they not come home? Will their bodies ever be found, dead or alive? And then that's it. That was not it for this story. We find out a tidbit about Wendy and what happens, and her parents finding out that she's trying to look for her brothers, and it ensues chaos within her family, and Wendy's plans for her future start to get messed up, and everything just kind of, the bottom falls out. That's what happens. The bottom just falls out of Wendy's life even more than it already has. Like, you think it can't fall out anymore, but it can fall out more, and it definitely does for her. And the ending of the book is just kind of like, you leave the book confused but not confused. You're like, wow, okay, I cannot believe that the book just ended like that. Like, that was not where I expected it to be. That is not how I expected it to be. And then you think to yourself, did I miss parts of the book? Did I miss parts where they told me this or that happened, that this or that was true, that this or that was real, that this or that was not real? Because when the end of the book comes, you're just as confused as Wendy still. You're just like, wow, really? And you're like, huh, okay. And it just completely blows your mind. It is not a straight and narrow contemporary book. It has a very unique kind of ending to it. Now, where it fell flat for me was during the main parts of the story. Kind of like instant love connections didn't really work out for me. Pieces of the story. Wendy as a character didn't necessarily work out for me in the beginning. She just felt very flat, and I guess that's what they were trying to do, was that she was just very naive about things of the world, and on her journey to try to find her brothers and find out what really happened to them, her eyes are opened up to the world, and she starts to grow a little bit, but her naiveness in the beginning just drove me back crazy. I was just like, oh my god, get together, girl. Like, oh, geez, Louise. Like, it was just a little bit too much for me. I was just like, she was just so naive. It just drove me crazy. Like, is there somebody who is this naive in the world? Like, that part just drove me crazy. And I understand that that was probably the point of it, because there was so much more that happened the book got much darker towards the end. Like, at the beginning, it's a little, like, light fluffy with darkness, and then it becomes very dark towards the end, and that's where Wendy starts to change. But I just couldn't handle it. I could not handle her naiveness at the beginning. It was just annoying naiveness, not just naiveness, annoying naiveness. And so for that, although I did enjoy the book, but it did have some sticking points that kind of just annoyed me and were kind of like obnoxious. And so for that, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 cupcakes. It wasn't a 4. It wasn't a 3. It was somewhere in the middle there, where I do think that it's a good read. I did, enjoy it for what it was, but it was not one of my favorites. It was not one of my worst. It was right there kind of in the middle, where you could take it or you could leave it. but either way you would be fine if you took it or left it. So I would recommend the book if you like contemporaries with a bit of mystery that start off kind of light and turn into a little bit more of a dark mystery. Then I would recommend this book for you. So thanks guys so much for coming by the Fiction Fray and watching my review of Second Star by Alyssa Sheinmel.